Rings of Power feels like a first draft. When I write a story, I don't always have all the details ready, so sometimes I'll write in a filler. I need a reason for one character to be at some place. I don't know how he'll get there yet, so I'll come up with some simple reason for now that I'm planning on going back to and either changing or expanding on. And with Rings of Power, it feels like when they wrote the first draft and they had these holes they would have to go back to and fix, and it feels like they never went back to fix it. So Rings of Power Season 2. The first season ended with this cool picture of Sauron with Mount Doom in the background, and it is a pretty cool picture. And I guess they had this picture in mind that they had to end the first season with. But you need a reason. Why would Sauron go to Mordor when in the second season we need him in Eregion with Celebrimbor making the rings? So why is Sauron going to Mordor? Okay, well I know. He goes to plead for his people. Okay, who are those people? Why does he want them free? And he's going there at great risk to himself. Adar can figure out he's Sauron and kill him or imprison him forever. So he's taking a great risk to ask Adar to let his people go, like Moses, right? So they don't give any explanation. The only other time they mention these people is when Adar goes personally to Sauron or to Halbrand, and he goes, okay, I freed your people, now you can talk. And that's the end of it. And it works. Halbrand doesn't ask for proof, he just believes him for some reason. So what happened there? So this feels like something you'd write in your first draft, and you'll give yourself a note to go back there and either fix it, either change it, or expand on it, make it kind of more natural, more reasonable. But it feels like once it was written, they forgot about it. So what we're left with is Sauron going to Mordor for no good reason, to be captured, only to have to convince Adar to let him go back to where he came from. So this whole ordeal is pointless. And you could think of better reasons for him to go to Mordor. Here's one reason. Maybe within the orcs and the men who serve Adar, there's a faction who is loyal to Sauron. And he wanted to go back to Mordor to assure them that he is alive. And he hasn't forgotten them. And he is still planning to take back his throne. That could be a reason. I don't know if it's the best reason, but it would make more sense. And hey, I'm not trying to work within the lore of Tolkien, because this show is not Tolkien, it's not Lord of the Rings, right? I'm looking at it as an independent story, and even as an independent story, it's just not written good. So yeah, this show feels like a first draft. No one ever bothered to give a second read. The budget for this show is insane. It's the most expensive show in history. And they couldn't find like decent writers. With that money, you could probably hire George R.R. Martin or Brandon Sanderson to write your script. But you can't find someone who can write dialogue and make sure the timeline makes sense and things don't contradict themselves, and someone who understands the original work, I guess. I mean, I guess you can also find someone who doesn't understand the original work and would at least write a story that is not Tolkien, but at least as an independent story could be watchable. And they did it with Game of Thrones too, and it boggled my mind back then also. It was the most expensive show of its time, and it was the same thing, and I'm talking about the later seasons, not the first seasons, obviously. And with this huge budget, you couldn't find a good writer? Anyway, that's my rant on Rings of Power. If you want to listen to my stories, you can check out my channel. I upload things that I write. It's mainly sci-fi and fantasy. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Bye bye.